Welcome to another episode of One on One with Mitch Lafon. I am your host, Mitch Lafon. Joining me this week from Talking Metal, the one and only Mark Striegel. Good day, sir.
Hey, Mitch. How are you?
Good. I've got a dandy for you today. I have got from Aerosmith, the one and only Joey Kramer, drummer extraordinaire, talking about the Aerosmith Rocks Donington 2014 film event taking place on February 26th in cinemas across the U.S. And, of course, his Rockin and Roastin coffee, which I've had, and it's absolutely fantastic.
Wow.
Hey, I love
Legendary.
coffee. I love my coffee. And, of course, after that, on the second part of the show, we've got Richard Fortus, guitarist for the Dead Daisies, but more importantly, guitarist for Guns N' Roses. And yes, we get into, is there going to be a Guns N' Roses reunion? And, well, listen, we'll let fans decide what his answer means. We'll let them decide, dissect it. But,
Yeah.
folks, you're going to want to listen.
Some great Guns N' Roses talk on the
Oh.
Richard Fortus interview. I
Oh,
did
yes.
have the pleasure of hearing it before recording with you right now, and it is good stuff, guys. So definitely stay tuned for that. But equally as important, Joey Kramer from Aerosmith. Incredible. You've had, what, 3 of the 5 members of Aerosmith on the show in like the last, 2 or 3 months?
Yep, absolutely. And I'm hoping to get Brad at some point because I know he's available for interviews. Maybe someday Steven. But the other fun part for this, for me, is the first time I ever saw Guns N' Roses back in 1988. They were opening for Aerosmith at the Saratoga Performing Arts Center. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that was your first experience with Guns N' Roses. You saw them in 88, but not in Saratoga in Philly.
I saw them in Philly, and it was one of my top 10 concerts, and I've seen hundreds of concerts throughout my lifetime. And that show with Guns N' Roses opening for Aerosmith at the Philadelphia Spectrum in Philly was just explosive. The kids tore out the seats in the front. They charged the stage. Axl ranted and raved about the Philly cops and how they had harassed him and his brother. And it was just an incredible night, and it'll go down in my personal history books as one of the best rock concerts I ever saw.
Yeah, and in Saratoga, I was standing in line waiting for the gates to open to this Saratoga Performing Arts Center, and I was with my buddy, and we were both sort of going, who's this Guns N' Roses guy? Blah, blah, who cares, right? And the guy behind me tapped me on the shoulder, and he goes, they're the next big thing. And I was like, yeah, sure, buddy. And you know what? Hey, whoever that guy was, he was right. So there you go. Hey, let's stop talking. Get into the meat of this stuff, folks. Without any further ado, the one, the only, Joey Kramer of Aerosmith.
Hey, Mitch.
Pleasure to talk to you. I've been a fan for many years, at least 40 years probably.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you. That's very nice to hear.
Yeah, always enjoyed Aerosmith from the first album all the way to Music from Another Dimension, which I have in front of me here.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it too.
How could you not? Let's talk about Aerosmith Rocks Donington. So you've got this movie coming out on February 26th. How did you come about to choose the Donington event to be the movie?
That's a very interesting question. I don't know if I have the answer to it.
Okay.
Donington is, a once-a-year thing.
Right.
It happens annually, and so I think they wanted to capture it live, and I think that it was probably a good choice because the band gets, pretty excited when you have 100,000 people on your side and they're rooting for you. Things can get pretty exciting on an Aerosmith stage. Yeah. I know. How it makes me feel when I'm sitting in front of that many people and they're all rooting for you. It's pretty strong. It's pretty emotional.
It really is. Will this be released eventually on Blu-ray and DVD as well?
Yes, it will.
Okay. Let me ask you about the presentation of an Aerosmith show. As you and I are both getting older here, you're the drummer. Things are always moving.
Mm-hmm.
Is the physicality still are you still in top shape, or at some point does you start does it start hurting, and is it hard to do an Aerosmith show at this point?
That's a good question. I am 64 years old,
Right.
and I'm in the gym Monday through Friday,
Mm-hmm.
and I work very hard to keep myself in the kind of physical condition that I need to be in order to do my job in Aerosmith, because I love it so much.
Right.
I work hard, but because I love the work so much, it's not really work.
Right.
Going to the gym every day can be a pain in the ass, but I know that I have to do it, because if I don't, it'll catch up to me on stage, and that's the last place I want it to catch up to me.
Yeah.
So I stay in shape, regardless of whether we're on the road or not, so that I can always do my job and be ready to do it at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yes, the show is for me is very physical, and it's one of the things that I've enjoyed over the years, because it forces me to stay in good shape and good health.
Yeah, I can imagine. May I ask you a few questions about the past, if that's okay?
Knock yourself out, Mitch.
The album Nine Lives, you had started the whole process with Glen Ballard, who had done Alanis Morissette, Jagged Little Pill.
Right.
And the band didn't seem to get along with Glen. What exactly happened, and why wasn't it working?
Why wasn't it working?
Yeah.
Well, for a number of reasons.
Okay.
First of all, to begin with, it was right around the time that Joey had a nervous breakdown.
Right, and I did want to ask you about that
so
as well.
And so I was in treatment pretty much the whole time that those guys were in the studio with Glen Ballard.
Right.
What went wrong between Glen and Steven, or Steven and Joe, or whoever, I'm not really sure. But when John Kolodner had heard what was coming out of the studio, he, together with the people from Columbia, decided that the record needed to be re-recorded and we needed to add some new songs. So right around the time that happened, I was getting out of treatment.
Right.
And so I went from the treatment center to the recording studio. We redid the whole album, and that's what you hear today as Nine Lives.
As Nine Lives. At the time, and this
not Nine Lives. What?
Yeah, sorry. 9 Lives. That's right.
Yeah, 9 Lives.
At the time, and I'm glad you mentioned it. Well, I'm not glad you mentioned the nervous breakdown, because nobody wants those. But was there a point in that period where you had actually left the band and said, "Listen, I'm done. I'm out of here"?
No, I never left the band.
Okay.
I never left the band. I never will leave the band. I'm never gonna leave the band.
Okay.
I'm the only drummer that's ever been in the band. That's the way it is.
Then going back to the Nights in the Ruts recordings, when Joe decided that he had had enough, and then when Brad decided, okay, I had enough, what kept you there?
What kept me there? My belief in Aerosmith as a whole. Right. I didn't really ever accept the fact that we were going to go Puss in the Night, because I think it was too strong an entity to begin with.
Right.
And I think there was just other things getting in the way, whether it was wives, drugs, alcohol, the usual nonsensical bullshit. But I always believed, along with Tom, and for the most part along with Steven. And it was, we went on to make Rockin' a Hard Place with Jimmy.
Yeah.
And and eventually those guys came back, and it is what it is.
Yeah, and Rockin' a Hard Place is a good album. I mean, Lightning Strikes is a great song. Were you ever scared though? Did you ever look up at Steven and Tom and say, "Uh-oh, now what?" Or was it always like, "Hey, we're just going to keep doing what we do"?
Oh no, man, no. Well, I was way too stoned to ever be scared.
A lot has been made about, there's really two Aerosmiths. There's 70s Aerosmith, and then there's the pop rock Aerosmith of years after. Do you feel that there are sort of two versions of the band?
I don't ever feel as though anybody that thinks that we ever played any pop rock,
right,
needs to have their ears examined as well as their heads.
Okay.
there's old Aerosmith and there's new Aerosmith. The new Aerosmith is by no. Let me ask you: do you think it's pop rock?
I don't think it's pop rock. I mean, you look at a song like Pink and you say, okay, that's a little bit lighter fare. But no, I like the whole thing, quite frankly.
That's a little bit lighter fare, but I don't think it's pop rock.
Right. True.
Let me tell you this much, man. A good song is a good song. And the reason why we have had the longevity that we have is, the band is the original 5 members and we are what we are. We're the entity that we have. Right. But really, the reality of it, I think, is that it's about the songs.
It really is.
And the songs have withstood the greatest test of all, which is the test of time.
Yep. They really have. Rocking and Roasting, your coffee line.
Yes.
What brought you to the point where you want to get a coffee line? And tell me a little bit about the coffee line.
All right. I started the coffee company about 2.5 years ago.
Yep.
And it is my desire to always bring new and wonderful things to people to enjoy.
Right.
Whether it's the music from my band or it's my coffee. Everybody drinks coffee. Everybody loves coffee.
Yep. And
there's so much shitty coffee out there that I had just about had enough of it. So I said, the only way I'm going to do this is to do it myself. And so I set out on the trail, and the odds were against me to make and distribute great coffee. Now, like I said, the odds were against me, but at the same time, just like the band, I believed, and I still believe. And it's not anywhere near where it needs to be or where I think it's going to be, but we're having success, and it's happening. And the reason that it's happening is because I have a great platform, which is the band.
Right.
But people know and understand that it's not necessarily about the money for me. It's about bringing the quality of what it is that I'm in the product that I'm bringing to people. I want people to enjoy it. I want people to have great coffee. I believe that the coffee that are favorites of people now, I don't think it's so good. And so once people taste my coffee, I get not only do I not get any negative feedback on it at all, but people love it. And we're slowly but surely working our way across the country. It's a lot of work, and I put a lot of time into it. I'm very hands-on because I'm not the kind of so-called celebrity that, will just rest on my laurels and sit back and collect a check.
Right.
I'm very hands-on. I cup the coffee myself. I supervise the roasting of it sometimes. We came up with the artwork for it. My wife came up with the name. And I work it all the time. It's my baby. I do in-stores. I do meet and greets. And I work really hard on it.
Is there a point where you branch out into other food products, the hot sauces and ice cream or anything like that, or is yours just really the coffee?
I don't think so.
Okay, so you're just all about.
I don't think so. I think it's just the coffee. I'm actually taking a big risk and opening my first Rockin And Roastin cafe in Attleboro, Massachusetts.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully, we're going to open that in April.
That's right. And then you're hoping to maybe expand and get into different markets, or do you want to just sort of stay in the Massachusetts market?
No, I'd like to see it expand.
Yeah. I think that'd certainly be great if you could have a coffee stand at every Aerosmith concert.
Yeah, well,
wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, it would be.
Done with Mirrors.
It's a lot of work, man.
Yeah, the album Done with Mirrors.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite albums. I really love it.
It is?
Oh, I love Darkness. I love the hop. I just My Fist Your Face. Love it all.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, when I read interviews with the band, whether it's Tom or Joe, they always say, well, we don't really like it. It could have been better. What's your take on that album? Do you like it at all? And if not,
I do. I do.
Okay.
I like the songs, and they were all really good ideas. That was the album before Permanent Vacation.
Correct.
And some of us were still on our permanent vacation when we did that album.
Right.
And so in my opinion is that it wasn't complete. It was incomplete. It didn't have all the bells and whistles that go with a regular, normal Aerosmith album. I use the word normal very carefully.
Right.
But it wasn't complete. We were all very involved still in recreational things other than music. And I don't think it was as good a record as it could have been because of that. But at the same time, there were some really good songs on there.
There really was. Now, it was the reunion album, and it didn't set the world on fire. What was the feeling going into Permanent Vacation? Was that sort of like, boy, if this doesn't work, we're done? Or was there...
No, Permanent Vacation was a whole... To me, Permanent Vacation was the comeback album, not Done with Mirrors. Done with Mirrors was just a stupid mistake.
Okay.
Especially as far as the artwork was concerned. I was the only one that said, I looked at everybody and said, are you kidding? You want to put everything backwards?
Yeah.
What are you thinking? And they went ahead and did it anyway. But when we got to do Permanent Vacation, there was a lot more sobriety going on. And we got with
Tim Collins.
You
got management with Tim Collins and Bruce.
Yeah, but more importantly, we got with Bruce Fairburn,
right?
Who did the Bon Jovi records before that, and he was just like up and coming. And him and Bob Rock, did Permanent Vacation, and it was the first time that we had used outside writers, like for Ragdoll and Dude Looks Like a Lady.
Mm-hmm.
And we began to enjoy, enormous success off of that record. But again, it was because of the songs.
Agreed.
And there wasn't an issue that, there were outside writers and we couldn't do it anymore or this or that or whatever. But the fact remains that they were good songs.
They really were.
And people, like Dude and Ragdoll, great songs. And then there was some other stuff on there that was really the band, like Girl Keeps Coming Apart, which is a great song. And, the record, it was what it was. I still really, really like that record.
Yeah, I've always...
My Heart's Done Time.
Yeah, Hangman Joe. I've always said if Aerosmith does an album tour, everybody says they should do Rocks, but I've always thought Permanent Vacation. I see our time's running out. I just want to ask you about Steven Tyler real quick. Steven is a drummer, like you. Was a drummer. Was there any time...
Not anything like me, but was.
Yeah, yes, of course. You're right. But recording in the early days in the 70s and stuff, did he ever second guess you, or did he look over your shoulder, or did you feel like, oh my God, or was it, I do the singing, you do the drumming, and everybody gets along kind of thing?
Oh, as far as looking over my shoulder and judging what I was doing?
Yeah, did he say, hey, I'm a drummer?
All the time.
All the time.
All the time.
Frustrating?
I don't know that another drummer would have made it through or survived what he put me through.
But you made it.
At the same time, I learned a lot and I love him.
Yeah, great talent. Now I said that we had 15 minutes. I could ask you another 100 questions, but I guess we're pretty much done.
Yeah, man, I have time. It's cool.
Oh, all right. Last album was Music from Another Dimension. Are you currently recording an album now? And no. Is it still important for a band like Aerosmith to make new music and have new albums, or can you just sort of go out and tour on the past?
You can go out and tour in the past if you want.
Right.
And you can go out and make a new records if you want and create new music if you want.
Right.
It depends on a lot of different things. First of all, we are a free agent right now. We don't have a record label.
Okay.
And in order to make a record, I hate to sound, monetary, but it costs a lot of money to make a record, and it would have to come from somewhere. And the way the record industry is today, not a lot of people are selling a lot of records, regardless of who they are or how good the record is. And a lot of records in today's marketplace is like, a couple 100,000. There's only a couple of artists like Taylor Swift and Katy Perry that are selling that kind of records. Most kids which is what they attract, are attached to their parents' wallets, and they download a song or two or three and not the whole record.
Right. So
it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to do new music. That doesn't negate the fact that everybody's still boiling over with it and pregnant with it. It's just a question of sitting down after maybe the next tour and seeing if we want to do that. It just hasn't been discussed yet.
Your book, Hit Hard, a story of hitting rock bottom at the top.
Right.
Very honest.
Mm-hmm.
What made you, what brought you to write the book? Why was that important to get that out there?
Mainly because I knew that I was experiencing and going through a lot of the same things that a lot of people were going through and experiencing, only they didn't have at their fingertips what I did. And so I thought that if I explained that and allowed people in to see how I handled depression and drug addiction and anxiety and all the wonderful things in life that people suffer from, I thought that it might be inspiring, and to my satisfaction, it was. And a lot of people were very glad that I wrote the book, which made me glad that I wrote the book. And I've gotten, incredibly positive feedback on it.
Mm-hmm.
And the only shame of the book was that when it was released, it was the same week that Michael Jackson had passed. And so it got really caught up in the shuffle of the media covering Michael Jackson, and then never really got the attention that it deserved.
Yeah. Is there a second book in you? 'Cause, I mean, it really was a fun read. I mean, a good read. I don't want to say fun because there was a lot of hard times going on in there, but is there a second?
Well, it's truth, man. It's just very honest.
Yeah, I've read a lot of these autobiographies, and a lot of them are very fluffy and very, oh, look how great I am.
Well, the thing is that they're all the same.
Yeah, they are. And I didn't get that feeling with yours. I got a feeling that I got to know Joey Kramer on a level that I hadn't known him otherwise, and that was just that was very refreshing.
Thank you. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah. Is there a second one? Is there more to the story that you need to tell?
Well, I'll tell you this much. It took me 4 years to write that book and get it to where I wanted it before I released it.
Mm-hmm.
And the manuscript was 1,000 pages long, and the book itself was only 250 pages long. So there was a lot of stuff that I had to pick and choose to, what's more important than the next thing. And that's what I did. As far as another book in that, I don't know, because I think if I went back and started reading that stuff again, I would probably want to update it and start again, and start afresh. It's like doing a record. You don't want to record songs that you wrote 15 years ago.
Yeah.
You want to do what you're doing now. So, if and when I have the time to do it, I've been asked to do another one, and I would do another one. I'd have to find the right company to do it with, and I would have to do it with somebody that really understood me.
Yeah. I'd love to see that. And then Steven Tyler, he's an incredible frontman, has written some of the greatest songs in rock history, but has also done a lot of stuff that has probably been frustrating to the band. You were supposed to record and get out there. He joins American Idol. You go on tour with ZZ Top. He falls back into old habits. What does Steven Tyler mean to you?
What does he mean to me?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how to answer that, really.
Okay.
You've stumped me.
I stumped you. Okay. Well, then let me ask you about him as a songwriter. what just makes it that he writes these incredible? I mean, when you get Dream On and Dude Looks Like a Lady and all the
Well, first of all, Stephen he's a very prolific musician.
right.
He's a very talented guy, and he is, in my opinion, I would use the word different than other people. He thinks differently, he acts differently, but it's not from a put on or rehearsed point of view. He's that way naturally. And so you have to have the room in your heart to understand how it is that he is, which can sometimes be very difficult.
Right.
But because I've had the opportunity to spend as much time with him as I have, and we've become as close as we are and have been over the years, I've come to understand him and accept what it is about him that's different. And so I can love him for that. It's not always easy, especially for me, but I make it happen.
Yeah. And what about some of the things that he's done on the flip side that has been sort of, I take it that it might have been annoying to the band? Your reaction when he joined American Idol, did you think, wow, this is going to hurt the brand? I mean, it turns out it was probably very beneficial to the brand, but did you really scratch your head at that?
It wasn't necessarily beneficial to the band.
Oh,
it didn't translate into concert tickets or record sales or anything like that. It made him more popular and it made him more visible. It didn't necessarily do that to the band.
Oh, really? Okay. I thought perhaps it might have brought in a new cohort of younger fans, but so okay.
I don't think so. I could be wrong, but I don't think so.
If Aerosmith were to record another album, would you want to make it more like Nine Lives or some of the more modern albums, or would you like to go back to a Toys in the Attic or Rocks kind of sound?
I don't think that you can dictate that. I think that it all depends on how people are feeling at the time.
Right.
I feel like Music from Another Dimension was a good record. It had good songs on it.
Yep.
There was a lot of good playing on it.
Yep.
And I think everything about it was good, but I think it was unrecognized. I don't think people thought that it was, I don't know what people wanted. We thought that they wanted something more like Toys or Rocks. We made an attempt at it. That's what it turned out to be. And it basically got rejected.
Yeah.
So I don't know that the band is in, favor or feeling positive about doing more music because of the way that one went over. We put a lot of effort into that record and, people didn't really care for it that much.
Yeah, which is strange. And you even brought back Jack Douglas. He's sort of your George Martin, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is about Jack that he really knows how to capture that Aerosmith sound?
I don't think the five of us would have gotten into the studio if it wasn't for Jack.
Okay.
Jack basically, if I could narrow it down to one thing, what Jack brings to the table is the fun. He makes what we do fun. He's the kind of guy that, even from the beginning when we did Get Your Wings, Jack is the kind of guy that there is no such thing as a bad idea. He's always open and willing to try just about anything and everything,
right?
Which is really an asset to him and to us. And he makes it a good time. He puts up with everybody's shit, but he doesn't take it personal.
Right.
And he enables us to have a good time. And that's what making a record and playing music is supposed to be all about, having a good time. It's when the stuff gets in the way that prevents you from having a good time is when the music sucks.
Yeah, and listen, he's definitely brought out the best in you. Joey, this is an absolute pleasure. I just want to thank you for the opportunity, and of course,
sure.
Everybody should of course check out Aerosmith Rocks Donington 2014. I'm very much looking forward to it. And will there be
don't forget rockinandroastin.com.
Absolutely. And will there be a summer tour this year?
Yes, there will be. We'll be out from the end of June, the 24th of June until the 24th of August.
Fantastic. Will it be a package tour? Is there?
I'm not sure who's going to be out with us yet. If it's one particular band or if it's going to be multiple bands or what the story is. But we're doing a Blue Army tour. We're going into like some secondary markets where we haven't been for the last 10 or 15 years. and because we've been ignoring those folks for long enough.
Oh, that's great. I'm looking forward to that. Thank you, Joey.
You're very welcome, man.
Been a pleasure.
Bye.
Bye-bye now. There you have it, folks. My interview with Joey Kramer of Aerosmith. You know, for many, many years, I was looking for an Aerosmith interview and could never land one. And then in the last, 6 months, I've had 2 interviews with Tom Hamilton, an interview with Joe Perry, interview with Joey Kramer. And you know what? If I had skates to retire or a golf club to put away and say, okay, folks, I'm done, after doing 3 of the 5 original members of Aerosmith, that's pretty good.
It's an accomplishment. That's awesome. And congratulations. Yeah, congratulations on that.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Have you ever interviewed anybody from Aerosmith, by the way?
No, we had Steven Tyler just briefly on an old episode of Talking Metal where John was out on a red carpet for some rock honors show or something, and Steven Tyler kind of whizzed by and gave John 3 sentences.
A little soundbite.
Yeah, of course we played it off Talking Metal podcast with special guest Steven Tyler, but it was literally less than 45 seconds, the quote unquote interview.
Hey,
so yeah, it's something though, right?
Yeah, so that you remember, folks, check out the Aerosmith movie on February 26th, and of course, head over to rockinandroasting.com to order Joey's coffee, which I have and I've tasted it. It really is that good. So
Good.
Kudos to Joey for making a great product, not only musically, but in the coffee world. You ready, Mark, for the one and only Richard Fortus of Guns N' Roses?
Absolutely. This is just a great interview, and can't wait for the listeners to hear this.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what the reaction's going to be because, listen, we talk about the Dead Daisies, we talk about the Cuba Rocks for Peace concert that they're going to be a part of on February 28th. They'll be playing down in Cuba. We talk about his association with the guys in Psychedelic Furs and X-Japan and all this other stuff, and then right there we get to Guns N' Roses. First of all, does the current lineup of Guns N' Roses still exist? There's been a lot of talk that with them and the Dead Daisies and Bumblefoot over here and Tommy Stinson over that with the replacements that the band is no longer. Well, Richard certainly addresses that for us very clearly. And then I said, hey, will there be a Guns N' Roses reunion? And we got a very, very long and very, very interesting answer. So, folks, let's listen. Let's stop teasing you. Here is Richard Fortus of Guns and Roses, ? I had a chance to see the Dead Daisies this summer on the Def Leppard Kiss tour, and you're heading out to Cuba at the end of the month. I've had a chance to go to Cuba twice myself. Tell me a little bit. Yeah, it's being in Canada, we don't have the same restrictions as Americans.
Right. Oh, okay. I didn't realize you were in Canada.
Yeah, I'm in Montreal, and I had a chance to go down twice. Once when I was 10 years old, my parents took me, and then later on. What does it mean for you to be able to go over to Cuba and play? One of the first American bands actually to do this.
Yeah, it's huge for us. For Americans, it's sort of like the opportunity of a lifetime.
Right.
I don't know anybody that's played in Cuba. So it's a big deal for us. Disney and I were just talking about it, and it's something that we never thought we'd see in our lifetime, where we knew the borders would open up.
Right.
As far as tourism, but as far as being able to play there, and I don't know, I think it's a great opportunity. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, the Cuba Rocks for Peace concert. Now, are you influenced at all by the sounds that come out of Cuba? I don't want to call it salsa, but are you excited?
I'm really excited about that. I fell in love with the whole Buena Vista thing, and I saw that in New York. And what a beautiful movie that was.
Yeah.
Growing up, in New York, you see, there's so much Cuban music, that it's a part of, because there's so many Cubans there, it's just a part of the city. And Frank, the drummer from Guns N' Roses, did you meet Frank?
I did meet Frank, and he was also with you in the Psychedelic Furs offshoot, Love Spit Love.
That's right. And
Right.
we also played in a band together called Honky Toast.
Oh, there you go.
Epic. Yeah. And I also played with him in Love Spit Love.
Right.
And he's Cuban. His father came over to New York in the whole Cuban big band era.
Right.
And was a big band Latin percussionist. And so, yeah, I knew his father. I knew that his mom. They still live in the same neighborhood in Hell's Kitchen in New York, and they still, they never have spoken English. So it's that's New York. You have areas where it's just people don't have to speak any other language but their first. So yeah, it's again, it's all over the streets. It's a big thing. So. I'm really looking forward to it. I actually spoke to Frank today, and we were talking about it and how special it was.
Yeah. So other than that, let me, if I can, just sort of talk about the Dead Daisies. The Face I Love EP came out last year, and you did, or in 2013, I guess it was, right?
Yes.
And,
well, yeah, I guess it was the end of 2013.
yeah. Is there a full-length album coming up?
Yes, we're working on that now.
Okay.
And as soon as we finish in Cuba, we're going to Australia to do some more recording and finish that up.
Okay.
So
Now
we'll be looking at I guess May.
Okay, so it should be released by May, you think?
Yeah, this summer for sure.
Oh, that'll be great. Now,
And
again,
it'll be out in May.
last year you did the tour with Def Leppard and Kiss. Are you doing any kind of package touring this year where you're going to go open for somebody, or?
We are. We're doing more shows with Kiss. I think we're going to do more with Def Leppard,
Okay.
Whitesnake, The Who, AC/DC. We've got a bunch of stuff lined up.
Oh, that's great. Def Leppard comes to Montreal in May, and there's no opening band announced at this point. Might it be the Dead Daisies?
They talked to us about doing that, but I don't think it's going to work out for us. And actually, I spoke with Joe about it, and
Right.
they really want us to do it. And they're such great people,
Mm-hmm.
the Def Leppard guys, really good guys. So I'm hoping that we do more with them. We're supposed to do more with them this year. So.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't think we're not gonna make that because I think we're gonna be in Europe with Kiss.
Oh, yeah, such a pity, right? You have to choose between Kiss and Def Leppard. I do want to ask you a little bit later on about Guns N' Roses and stuff, but let's, if I can, and I don't know how much time you have, but if I can, let me just ask you about Richard Butler, of course, singer for Psychedelic Furs. How did you get to meet up with him and then end up doing some Psychedelic Furs gigs before moving on to Love Spit Love?
I was in my first band.
Right.
Was called Pale Divine. We were on Atlantic Records, and we actually supported the Furs.
Okay.
And that was like, what, 92?
Okay.
91 maybe? And the Furs at that time, that was one of my favorite bands.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a real thrill to be able to play with those guys. But we were supporting them, and then they asked me if I would come up and sit in with them after our set. And I was playing cello with them. And then after that tour, I ended up doing more stuff with them. And then Richard asked me if I would come up to New York and write his, what was going to be his solo record.
Right.
But that ended up becoming a band. And it became a band because he and I wrote the whole thing. And afterwards he said, I feel like it would be unfair of me to call this a solo project when, we've done it all together. So
right.
that became Love Spit Love, and we did 2 records with Love Spit Love.
Any chance that you might do some more with Richard at some point, or is
Yeah, we've actually been talking about. He's one of my favorite people, and I played with him for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I played with, whenever I can, I play with the Furs.
Right.
And I've actually been exchanging song ideas with him. So I think that we probably will do more together in the future.
Oh, that's really great. Now,
he has one of the greatest voices in rock and roll, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, having grown up in the '80s and listening to all those songs, he's one of the voices of the soundtrack of my life. So it's great to know that he's still going at it. And Marco Mendoza was in Thin Lizzy for a while, and then Whitesnake, and you joined him in Thin Lizzy. How was it for you as a guitarist to be in that band?
That band Thin Lizzy was a huge influence on me when I was really young.
Right.
They were, Jailbreak was probably one of the first rock albums that just blew me away. And I can remember where I was the first time I heard it and the impact that moment had on me. I never heard guitars sound like that before, where they were so in your face. And so I realized when I started, I got what was the Live and Dangerous, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I got Live and Dangerous when I was a kid, and it really was the ideal guitar tone for me. Like that was what I sort of based what the perfect guitar tone sounded like, and I've been chasing that elusive sound since, you have that, you're always, as a guitarist, you're always chasing that,
Yeah.
the perfect guitar tone. And it really had a lot to do with my ideals of what was perfect, with guitar, rock and roll guitar. And I told Scott Gorham that when I first started working with him. He said, "Man, I'm sorry to burst your bubble, kid, but that's all we had."
Right.
That was all we could afford. Our Marshalls weren't the new Marshalls. They were a few years old, which of course, would have made them plexis. And he only had limited guitars, and so it's funny how it just happens, to work out in that way. But yeah, it really shaped me. And those songs, and to stand next to Scott Gorham and play those guitar parts just is a guitarist's wet dream. It really is.
Well, I'm not surprised to say that, because I actually looked at some videos of you with Thin Lizzy on YouTube, and your smile when you were doing sort of the shoulder to shoulder stuff with Scott was undeniable. You could say, "Man, this is a kid in a candy store." I don't know if I don't know if you noticed it, but go back and look at YouTube. You can see that.
Oh, I felt it.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I was so happy. Yeah, it was a dream come true. Like I said, it was amazing. To be able to play those guitar harmonies with Scott is just, didn't get any better than that. And to be a part of that lineage, with, you look at all the great guitar players that have been in that band, from Snowy White to Robertson to Gary Moore to Sykes, on up to Vivian. I replaced Vivian Campbell.
Yeah.
So, it's been an amazing lineup of guitarists in that band.
No, absolutely. Even Damon Johnson, who spent some time with Alice Cooper and Brother Kane, is doing a great job with them, and now as Black Star Riders. So, just a wonderful band. Let me see here. Let me ask you about another band that you played with, X-Japan. Back in 2008, you with Wes Borland from Limp Bizkit went out and did some of their reunion shows. X-Japan in Japan is as big as the Beatles. In North America, probably couldn't fill a cafe. What was it like to play with that band, and why do you think they just didn't translate to the North American market?
Japan is such a strange market, isn't it? I mean, they try and everything is amplified, you know, and that's what X-Japan was. They were a metal band, but like they had, you know, the whole chorus, like the whole pop chorus thing going on, and then they had real heavy verses and super fast, and so it was faster and heavier than anything else, and the choruses were poppier and cheesier than anything else, and everything was just like amplified. Everything is kind of their hair was taller, their clothes were more outrageous. You know, it was it's just times 10. Everything is times 10.
Right.
And their power ballads were more powerful and more ballady.
Yeah.
Yes, it's funny. I mean, to us, a lot. You know, we look at it, and some of the stuff is genius, and other things you look at, you stand back and look at it and go, oh my God, this is just so over the top. And the Japanese they eat it up. You know,
right.
they love it. Like it can't be too big or too fast or too, you know. And I think culturally that's the difference. And plus they didn't sing in English really. And
true. Well, what's your connection though to X-Japan? Like, why would you agree to do the gig? Was it just a paid gig and you went and did it, or did you actually?
No,
no.
I wouldn't say that I was necessarily a fan of X-Japan, but I loved the spectacle of it, and I'd seen videos of it because as a musician, you're always, whenever you go to Japan or you go to Australia, you find out all the Australian bands, you know, all the unknown bands to us, you know, the underground bands that we don't even hear about. When you go to South America, you do the same thing. You know, you search out. You know, you're always looking for inspiration. You're always looking for something to inspire you in any way. And I had seen X-Japan videos. I met Yoshiki, the drummer, who's the star of the band. You know, he's like the genius behind the band. And I met him at a studio. Actually, no, he was producing an album that I played on. And actually, this is funny. I was asked to audition for Guns N' Roses, and I said, yeah, sure, you know, I'm going to, it works out because I'll be out in LA in a couple of weeks anyway, so I could maybe do it then. And they said, okay, great, that's perfect. You know, we're going to be doing auditions and we'll slot you in. And then I spoke back and forth with them, and then I didn't hear anything more. I thought, well, that's weird. I went out to do this album, and the album was one that Yoshiki was producing.
Right.
And he was co-producing, I think, with Ted Nicely or somebody else that had brought me in. Anyways, I ended up going to the session, and on the session, the bass player was Tommy Stinson, and the drummer was Josh Freed, and they were both playing with GNR at the time. So I said, "Oh, this is crazy because I was supposed to audition for you guys this week," and they said, "Oh, you're the guy, right?" Well, Axl found this guy Buckethead and called off all the auditions.
Right.
So we stopped auditioning people. So, and anyways, Yoshiki was the producer, ironically, you know. And then I ended up doing a few other things with Yoshiki as well. And we became friends, and I was actually at his studio working on something. I think it was like a movie score or something like that I was playing on. And he was there, and he goes, "Oh, man, what are you up to?" And we're talking, and he said, "You know what? I'm doing some X-Japan shows. I'd love to have you come play with us." So that's how that happened.
That's kind of cool. So, look, okay, listen, you mentioned Guns N' Roses. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you a couple of questions. I saw you with Guns N' Roses probably 3 times, maybe 4, in Montreal, in Hartford, and so on. Fantastic shows. You know, for all the gruff that Axl got about the original band, I thought the band was great. I thought the song sounded great. I thought the energy was great. And, you know, people don't like when I say that, but I thought it was great. What was your experience with Guns N' Roses? Did you enjoy
Well, first of all,
first
I
of all,
like it when you say that.
what is the status of Guns N' Roses? Because there seems to be a lot of rumors swirling around. Are you recording an album? Are you on hiatus? Are you touring soon? What's going on?
I don't think there's going to be any touring soon.
Okay.
We have been working on material.
Okay.
And that sort of starts and stops, and we're still plugging away at it. And
is it frustrating?
Is it frustrating? Not. If I didn't have other things going on, it probably would be.
Okay.
But I've got other things that I focus on. I've been doing GNR now for 13, 14 years. I mean, it's the nature of what it is. I mean, Axel's, I've never met anybody that has so much genuine musical integrity.
Right.
He won't whore himself out. He won't do anything for business or money. It's just about the music. And he won't defend himself in the press because it doesn't matter. He doesn't think it matters. It's just about the music. That's all he cares about. And I've worked with a lot of people in this business, and I've never seen or met anybody that was motivated purely by that.
Yeah, I could agree
by
with that.
By the desire to make art. And you can say whatever you want about it because he's not going to defend himself, but he is that, and that's for sure. And I've seen it. Otherwise there would have been a reunion.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Because the offers for money have been outrageous, but he would never do a reunion unless it was for something besides money.
Well, there has been talk that a reunion might happen in some point, but do you think
there's been talk since I've been in the band?
Yeah, I can imagine. Is the criticism that he's gotten over the last 13 years that you've been, is it fair, or is it just really people aren't being open-minded enough?
Well, it depends on what they're criticizing. I think it frustrates fans with the lack of information that's given.
Sure.
It frustrates them with the lack of product.
Right.
The fact that they want to buy albums, they want to support the band, and but they can't. And we do tour. We have toured a lot. I don't know. I don't know if it's justified or not.
Yeah, and the tours have certainly gotten better in terms of, when I saw you in Hartford, I think you showed up on stage at 11:45 or something like that and played till 3 in the morning.
Yeah, I remember that show.
That was a tough one. But then after that, most gigs I saw after that, you were pretty much coming on at 10:20, 10:30, and it wasn't so much an issue anymore. So
right. No, the last few years, it's not like a lot of bands where it's like clockwork. It's like, okay, and 9 o'clock light. It's different. It's never going to be that.
Right.
Because that's not who he is. I mean, but he's the man. He's the real deal.
Yeah.
He is the real deal, and he lives it, and he, like I said, all he cares about is the music. And for the longest time, when I first started with the band, even I thought it was by design. I thought he has this worked out because it's 2 hours after we're supposed to start, 3 hours, and people are stadiums full of people just booing, and and the second you walk out on stage, all that energy, all that, we're just on the verge of chaos, of just imploding, and everyone just, rioting. Right at that moment, he walks out on stage, and all of that negative energy just goes totally up right into the palm of his hand. I mean, it's phenomenal to watch.
It is.
And I thought it was by design. I thought that he had figured out some type of way to, judge the moment, but it's not. It's not. It's just, that's just what he is. He's not going to walk out on stage until he is
ready.
It's not like he's sitting back watching TV and eating potato chips. He is, man, he goes through a lot to walk out on stage.
Yeah, a whole ritual.
Just everything within himself.
Right.
I think, to get into the right place within himself.
Yeah, because I have heard that he, in the early days, suffered from this incredible stage fright, and it took everything he had to get over it.
Yeah.
I'll ask you one more, GNR. There was talk that the entire Appetite for Destruction album had been re-recorded by the new guys, the new band, to use for commercials and movies and all that. To use it, not to put out. Is that true?
No, I know that they did some stuff. I think it was sort of. This is before I was in the band.
Okay.
And I think it was not for that reason.
Right.
But to sort of get a.
Well, let's say probably
reading of where they were recording wise, like
Gotcha.
sonically.
Gotcha.
And it was songs that everyone knew, and I don't think it was with the intent of being able to relicense and
perfect.
not have to pay the old band.
Yeah, well, that's sometimes that's what you do,
or to control the masters.
Right.
And that happens. I mean, I've done it
Sure.
with bands. I've done it for other bands. Where I've gone in and played stuff
and then
re-recorded stuff.
Before I circle back to Dead Daisies and John Stevens, is there a Guns N' Roses band at the moment? I know Bumblefoot's gone off and done solo stuff. And Dizzy are doing this. Tommy is doing the Replacements.
We're still doing GNR as well. I mean, we're still involved in that.
Okay, it's just that the timing was that everybody seemed to have announced within like a 2-week period all these different projects, and it almost looked as though the glass fell to the floor.
Because we've been doing the Daisy stuff before
Bumble.
Actually, well before. Actually, when we were on tour in Australia,
right.
ZZ Top was opening for us, and on the off days, on GNR's off days, ZZ was doing their own shows, and on those days, the Dead Daisies were opening for ZZ Top.
Gotcha. So let's finish with this. John Stevens had a small part in Excess out in Australia, which I'm assuming is why you're going to be recording in Australia to be closer to his home base.
David Lowy, the other guitar player.
Oh, right.
Right. He's based in Australia, in Sydney, and that's why we're going to be there.
Gotcha. Just tell me a little bit about John in terms of a vocalist. Over here, we haven't really had a chance to hear him like they have in Australia. We didn't really get to see the In Excess John Day. In fact, I don't think they came to America when John was. Just tell me how he is as a singer.
He's a phenomenal singer. I think he's probably one of the greatest voices in rock right now.
Right. Yeah.
As far as contemporary singers, in that classic, just ballsy, barroom, and real pub rock, real like AC/DC style, just ball to the wall rock and roll singer. I think there's not many people that can hold a candle to that guy.
No, what I saw you open for Leopard and Kiss, I was impressed. I thought this is a really decent band, good band, and I'm looking forward to it. And I certainly wish you well on the Cuban trip. I think that'll be a lot of fun.
I'm really, really looking forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely, Richard. This has been a great pleasure. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you for talking to me.
Thank you, Richard, and hopefully we'll see the Dead Daisies in Montreal soon.
You will.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye now. There you have it, folks. My interview with Richard Fortus. of the Dead Daisies. And Mark, that was fantastic. I think the fans are going to have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I'm already scratching my head. I'm already just wondering what is next in the Guns N' Roses saga, and what great stuff, Mitch.
Yeah.
Excellent job interviewing Richard Fortus, one of the members of the band that we don't really hear from that often. Bumblefoot does a lot of interviews, and even Dizzy Reed is out there quite a bit, but Richard Fortus you don't really hear from quite as often as some of the other guys. And thanks for bringing that interview to us Guns N' Roses fans.
It was great. Now, I don't know what kind of, if any, controversy this will cause, but recently Dee Snider said some things about Doug Aldrich on Twitter, and Doug responded, and you can head over to both their Twitters to see what they said to each other. But on our next episode, I have got Doug Aldrich, who is going to be talking about that, and of course his new band and album, Revolution Saints. And I have said it ad nauseum, I know. I've belabored the point, but to me it is absolutely the best melodic rock album that has come out in 2015 so far. And quite frankly, I think by the time we get to December, it'll definitely be still in the number one spot. Certainly won't drop any further than the third best melodic rock album. So check out Revolution Saints, check out the upcoming Doug Aldrich interview, and of course check out Metal Raps that I do with Mark and Mitch Joel. Yay, a lot of discussion on that show too.
Yeah, it's so much fun talking with you guys about hard rock and heavy metal happenings. And on that show, one thing that's kind of fun is we don't do interviews. So, sometimes when you do an interview, you might be a little bit more guarded. You don't want to offend anybody you just interviewed. You don't want to, hurt anyone's feelings. And I feel like on Metal Raps, we don't worry about that quite as much. Our guard is down a little bit more than normal. And we can really talk and discuss opinions and rumors, and it's a lot of fun. So please check out Metal Raps on iTunes, on Spreaker, on all the normal podcasting outlets.
Yeah, and Mitch Joel, by the way, is just such an incredible speaker, such an incredible talent. If you haven't followed Mitch Joel, at Mitch Joel on Twitter, do so, because he's way beyond the rock world. He does of course, some rock stuff, but just a great business leader in Canada. He's just, on the top, and very, very interesting. He's done TED Talks and all that. He
consults for Google and stuff like that. I mean, he's a smart guy for sure.
Yeah, and he's very refreshing because he does not hold back his opinions. When we say Van Halen this or Ace Frehley that, he's not like fanboy. He just goes, yeah, well,
Yeah.
And that's really refreshing. And of course, find me at Mitch Lafon on Twitter. And Mark?
Yeah, the best Twitter, the one that I use the most, there's like 3 or 4 of them, but is Talking Metal, at Talking Metal. So check me out there.
Yeah, and of course, check out everything else on the Talking Metal digital network. We've got Mars Attacks with Victor Ruiz. We've got, of course, Mark, you've got your show, which is it's the granddaddy of them all. I mean, it's in the top 100 on iTunes for 6 years now? 7 years now?
At least, maybe going on 10 probably, but
right.
Yeah. And I'm also fortunate enough to be working on this season of That Metal Show, which airs on VH1 Classics here in the States. And if you tune in next Saturday, the premiere episode of season 14 will air. We haven't taped it yet, but the guests are Geddy Lee and John Petrucci of Dream Theater, and one other very special, unannounced surprise guest who is a big deal. I'd call him a major, major rock star. Wow. So tune in, VH1 Classic, every Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard.
Yeah, that'll be very cool. And of course, Mark, hopefully this year we'll see you up in Montreal in August for the Heavy Montreal Festival, which has Faith No More and Slipknot announced so far. But of course, there's going to be roughly 60 bands, and always a great event. You looking forward to it?
Oh, I can't wait. And I like how they're announcing the bands kind of one at a time. It's very teasy, if you will, and just has me excited and waiting for the next announcement. But I'm very excited by both those two announcements, Faith No
Yeah.
More and Slipknot. Two great choices, and can't wait to hear who else is going to be there.
And a great festival. And anybody listening to this, if you can get to the Heavy Montreal Festival, do so. Again, I've said it before. It's on an island. You've got the city of Montreal as your backdrop while you're on this island, and the bands love it. It's just a great event. There you go.
Cool.
And thank you, folks. And thank you to Joey, and thank you to Richard.